Hi, and welcome to the Wildling Podcast. I am trying to get a little further away because I feel like I'm always way too close to the camera, but bear with me. I'm trying to figure this out. It's just me, obviously. Anyway, full disclosure, I had a different video set that I wanted to do for the first actual episode back, and I changed my mind. I don't really want to do that anymore. I think well, or maybe I'll actually watch it back because I don't really do that. Uh, I need to start watching shit back and take little clips to post on the podcast socials. Haven't done that yet. Need to. I just, I really don't like that part. But anyway, maybe I'll watch it back and then decide to just go ahead and go for it. But I don't know. So if this is the first episode, it replaced another one. And yeah, I don't really know the direction I want to take this. I do want it to be about spiritual practices and self-care, ambition. I have a lot of things to talk about. And where do I start? Hmm. I guess I want to start with saying that it is very important for everyone to do healing work that includes traditional methods and then the more maybe non-traditional methods, but on a more spiritual side of things. And it's for yourself, yes, but also for the people that are closest to you. Because if everyone would just work on themselves and recognize sorry, I've got like a hair on my face and it's driving me nuts. So if you are watching the video and you're seeing me fight with my face, that's what it is. I have a rogue hair. This is a situation and my sensory issues can't handle it. Um, anyway, it's if more people would face their shit and work on themselves, then other people would have less to heal from over the traumatic experiences that they've dealt with from others. And that would be great. I am so tired of having to work on myself and heal from things because of other people. I'm so tired of it. And I'm at a point where one of the things that I am working on with my therapist is trusting myself again because of making the decisions that weren't in my best interest. Even though at the time it seemed like it and I was bamboozled. I don't want to go through that anymore. I do not want to go through that anymore. So I am trying to take steps to not do that anymore. And part of that is facing your own shit with it, yes, but not not taking the full blame because it's not your fault if you get bamboozled. It's not your fault if you think something is going to be one way and it turns out to be another, even if it wasn't done intentionally. Even if you think that something is going to be amazing and then you go into it and it turns out that it actually wasn't what you thought it would be. And it wasn't done intentionally, but it still happened and it still hurt. That's part of life. And that can feel like a self-betrayal as well. So it can happen in so many different ways, is what I'm trying to get at. It can happen in so many different ways, and it still needs healing. It still needs to be gone through. And If it's something that you're really uncomfortable with, this is one of those moments where you need to lean into the discomfort because that is the only way through. That's the only way to heal. That is the only way to rewire your nervous system and your brain, create new neural pathways, all the things. You have to learn, you have to heal, you have to grow. And I also want to caution people, especially in the whole New Age movement, once that really hit mainstream, so did the popularity of plant medicines, which includes, uh, well, I don't think I need to name them all. Plant medicines, natural, herbal stuff. It includes it all. That can have its benefits for some people, but it can also be to some people's detriment. And that is not talked about enough. So that's something else that I want to address as we go into all of this is if you are going into the spiritual type communities or not, maybe you're just taking pieces and parts of the new agey thing because raves are also really popular again right now and events that are just like a massive freaking party. A lot of drugs are involved, and yes, that includes the natural stuff. And you do have to be careful with that because a lot of people get dependent on it. You don't necessarily need a substance to reach an awakening, to reach expansion, to gain clarity on something, or to feel that spiritual high and that breakthrough. You don't have to have a substance to accomplish that. For some people, it has been a huge benefit and awakening. I'm not discounting that. But I do want to caution you to be careful to not fall into getting reliant on it or thinking that that's the only way or doing it too much because you can overdo it. And if you are overdoing it, then that is going to increase your chances of inviting in or listening to the darker entities because they do exist. And if you're one of those people that is doesn't believe in any kind of entities at all, no good side, no bad side, no, so you could also call them angels, you could call them demons, you can call them whatever. They have so many names that you can go by. If you don't believe in that at all, okay, that's fine. Buckle up though, because we're gonna go there. And I've noticed that there are people that are doing substances maybe too much. And so then they are paying attention to things that are not actually in your best interest, but it is muddled. Maybe you're not really noticing or taking that time to notice that, oh, this isn't actually a good thing for me. Sometimes you need to really sit with it and really try to decide from yourself, does that align with me? Does that feel true for me? And that includes if you have teachers, if you have therapists, if you have coaches, if you have gurus, then you need to still be so careful and listen to yourself because that's where we do ourselves dirty a lot of the time is we listen to outside sources. Even if it seems like a spiritual experience, that doesn't mean that it was from a good source. It could be something that is going to break you down. And I've seen that a lot as well. We also need to recognize that we live in a hellscape. If this is my personal opinion, all of this is really, I cannot imagine worse than the atrocities that have happened on this planet. What is worse than that kind of hell? What is worse than the things that have happened to so many children, to women, to innocent people, to the vulnerable? I mean, for thousands of years, it has been just so much bad shit that has happened, and that really has taken over the good. And it started a very long time ago, and it seemed to have just continued. That doesn't mean that everything is all bad all the time, but it does mean that because we live in such a world that has so much bad that exists, that includes entities that love to feed off of that. And you have to kind of pause and consider, are there more bad entities influencing than there are good? Because of how prominent the negative energies and experiences have been for so long. You also have to consider, am I being influenced by something other than myself? Is something influencing me in a way that is, it feels like it's kind of coming from me or from another source. It feels like a spiritual experience, but it's trying to get me to do something that's not actually a good thing. And if you're someone that struggles with suicidal ideations, that is just one of the many examples where something can prey on that. And sometimes that does happen from outside sources. A lot of people experience bullying, a lot of people experience toxic relationships and friendships that are toxic, and they can be very covert about it and really play into harming you in ways that are not overt. They don't necessarily seem like this is hurtful, but the feeling is there. And they said something in a way that really hit hard. And if you're in a good dynamic, then you'll be able to speak on that. And that can help with clarity because sometimes people really just accidentally hurt your feelings. That is so real. It doesn't automatically mean that they intentionally said something terrible. But again, unfortunately, we live in a world where there are a lot of people that have narcissistic type traits. And I say traits because that doesn't mean that they're all automatically narcissistic, but a lot of people have experienced dealing with other people like that, and it can be detrimental on your mental health, and it can harm your physical health, and just your whole life can end up pretty much in shambles because you've been dealing with a person that wasn't good for you. And sometimes they come in the form of a spiritual teacher, a spiritual guru, somebody that you go to for help. It happens in religious communities as well. Definitely don't want to leave them out. It does happen. There's always going to be a predator that's they're going to go where they can get the most prey. And that's why you still need to have discernment. If you are vulnerable because you're seeking out healing and you're going to try different modalities, because that's a good thing, but you come across the wrong person, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. That does happen a lot. So don't feel like you you shouldn't take that on as a personal defeat, really. And I'm saying that as someone who has done that myself. I I need to forgive myself for choosing wrong in relationships in particular. Ones that weren't actually really good for me, even if it seemed like it would have been, even if I wanted it to be, because unfortunately I am a lover girl. And And a ruthless world, that's not always a good thing. So, anyway, if if you are going to be doing any kind of spiritual work, any kind of healing work, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, just be so careful and still have discernment and really try to sit with and process it. And that in itself needs to be its own practice. That needs to be part of the practice, is just sitting with yourself. And that's one of the reasons why so many encourage journaling, because that's sitting with yourself. That is trying to process in a way that is entirely you sitting with yourself. And the challenge could be shutting off the outside influence while you're doing that. And that's another reason why it is important to step away. It can be very important to step away. If you are someone that is easily influenced by outside sources, then you need to be extra cautious. And if you think that getting influenced isn't a thing, then why are there so many multimillionaire influencers? Because people can be easily influenced. Because there are a lot of people that get easily influenced, especially when you're young, because you are more susceptible when you're young. If your frontal lobe hasn't fully developed, you are going to be even more susceptible, which is another reason why predators love that, because they know that. And I wish we lived in a world where that meant you'd get extra protection instead. But that's not how things run here for most people. Anyway, something else that you need to be so careful of if you are getting into the plant medicine route is not only doing too much of it and getting dependent on it. If you do, then if you start detoxing from that, you're going to realize probably like a whirlwind of emotions that had been masked, and suddenly you're really feeling them. Or you're not having that mask anymore, so you're feeling it in a totally different way. And that can happen as well. Something else that can happen with plant medicines that is not talked about nearly enough, but I try to talk about it, is you can end up in psychosis. And that is a terrifying thing. I have worked with people that experience psychosis, and it's awful. It is awful, but it absolutely can happen to people. And everyone that I can't really think of that many cases of people that experience psychosis that drugs somehow weren't intertwined, whether they already had psychosis and then they started doing substances and that made it worse, or it just kind of became part of it. But most cases, maybe not all, okay, but most cases, it is involved somehow. And for some people, even doing plant medicine is what triggered that. So don't think that you can just jump right into it and have this amazing spiritual awakening and suddenly your whole life has changed for the better, when that's not how it goes for everybody. And that's one of the reasons why going to someone who has a solid reputation is helpful. And maybe even having people that you trust with you that could look out for you during the experience. It's not great to take, especially things that are considered like a sacred medicine, and then you're just using it as kind of a party drug. That's not great either. And if you don't really know the source, then it could be laced with something terrible, because there is a fentanyl crisis. So, how do you know what you're dealing with is clean if you don't even know really the person that you got it from? And you're not taking it seriously. It is something that you need to take seriously because it can have a massive impact on your whole life. There have been too many people that, even just at a festival, because it's the cool thing to do, and yeah, let's party it up. And they do a natural medicine and then end up in psychosis, bad trip, whatever. And for some people, it doesn't go away. For some people, it becomes a very long-term struggle. Is that really worth it? I don't think so. But if you don't care, if you hear all that and you don't care, then you probably should explore your self-love and try to focus on that first because you should care about yourself. You should care about how something can impact you so severely. And I'm not saying that everybody should steer clear of plant medicines. I'm just saying be very careful and do it in a way that it is respected, and so are you. And there are places that have like a medical team that will monitor you while you go through a plant medicine journey. And maybe that would be the best route to start with, to do it in a more gentle way and in a way that is monitored. That way, if something goes south, you're not naked in the jungle or at a festival where everybody's tripping on something. That's probably not great either. Anyway, I also caution people to be careful of putting people on a pedestal. That goes for everybody. Nobody belongs on a pedestal because everybody is going through the human experience, and that in itself is difficult and flawed. And you have to be careful with putting people on a pedestal. And I think, I hope, with so much that has come out about Hollywood that has been a terrible secret for so many years, but is now finally really so at the forefront where people are finally taking celebrities off that pedestal that they had them on as these perfect beings to worship. And oh my God, their status and their power and their money is so glamorous, all that luxury, and they worship them. And then now they're starting to realize, oh, a lot of bad things have happened in that realm. Maybe I shouldn't have them on a pedestal. Maybe I need to reevaluate how I think of people like that. That goes for everybody, including people in healing realms. And I think people are finally starting to do that with doctors as well. There was a time where doctors were on a pedestal. No matter what they said, that was the truth. Don't question it, even though a big part of science is to question. Make that make sense. It's maybe overwhelming for the people that are just getting into this spiritual journey and all the new age information. There is a lot of information out there. And you can kind of end up anything in the beginning that feels good, especially if you've gone through the ringer and you're looking for healing, you're needing something that feels good, you can end up in a frenzy, and too much is not a good thing. You still need to be able to kind of catch yourself with overdoing it and recognizing the circles that you are in, if they are really a good fit for you. Also, remembering that they're still human. And you are probably also going to ebb and flow in your own journey. And so you need to have that compassion for yourself as well. If you are going through any kind of practices where you have this massive expansion and it feels like this huge breakthrough and it feels amazing, there can still be a massive contraction that follows that. And that's something that you need to prepare for and be ready to have support through. If you go through all of this without any kind of support and you're not even supporting yourself, that's not a good thing. You need to also be able to support yourself and recognize that you it's okay to need that, that you do need that. You do need that layer of protection for yourself. And it's not a bad thing. Even if you don't like journaling, if you can turn on your camera and talk to yourself, some way that feels right, but it's you sitting with yourself and really trying to figure out the ways that, well, there's so much to this that you can start by picturing what your dream life would be like. What does that look like for you? And bring in your five senses into it as well. What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? Bring it all in and really sit with that. And you can sit with the details as much as you want. Maybe you're not a detailed person, maybe it's just an overview. Then go there. And then if you think about what kind of practices would feel really good for me right now, is it EMDR therapy? Is it to go on a meditation retreat? Is it to do a darkness retreat? Is it to start doing yoga? Is it to start weightlifting? What is it that feels right in the moment? And recognize that it's something that can change. It could start feeling really great for you now and then reach a point where you need to kind of reevaluate because it's not feeling as good as it did. And so, what is it that needs to be altered? And also know that if you go on some sort of retreat, that when you get back, it can feel strange and disorienting, and you can feel really dysregulated. And that's part of the contraction that you need to prepare for. Because if you're going away from your normal life and going on this healing retreat, that is going to feel so aligned and so amazing. And you're going to purge a lot of shit that needed to go and bring in a lot of good vibes. And you're kind of probably going to be on this high. And then you go back to normal life. And that's something to consider is how you're going to reintegrate back into your normal everyday life. And how are you going to do it in a way that feels not overwhelming? And some people are very, very privileged in having the time and the extra money to be able to take that extra time to reintegrate in a gentle way. Other people don't, and they have to just dive right back into their normal life. So, really consider what that's going to look like for you and how you're going to handle it in a way that is best supportive for yourself. And so, if you know, for example, that while you were gone, this one meditation practice was just connected so well for you, then try to bring that in once you get back and do it like after a long day of work and you're exhausted and it just not what you want from life, but what you're having to deal from life. And, all the things that can come along with that and chaos. And maybe it's family stuff. Maybe it's being in a city that's very overwhelming when you were just out in basically the wilderness and just had nature. And now all of a sudden there's just all of this stimuli and it's too much. Then it's going to be very important to bring in those things that are going to help you recenter and help you regulate and help you ground again. Maybe it is just a grounding meditation. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's dancing around. Maybe it's doing some jujitsu. Maybe it's going to a rage room. Whatever that looks like for you, try to honor that as best you can in a way that is obviously not hurtful to someone else or yourself. Something else, if you are going through healing stuff, it can be difficult to find the balance. Even if you're not going on these retreats or you're doing anything that's like a lot, still finding that balance can be a challenge. So if you're going to therapy and you're doing I'm doing EMDR, so I'm going to use EMDR. That's something that I've just started. I'm going to use that as an example. So if you're doing EMDR and a lot of things are coming up for you, that needs to purge. And it's happening, it should be happening in a way that feels safe, even if it's like, I don't like feeling this. It doesn't feel good to have to feel. Recognize that and try to continue to move through it, but also do things that help feel balance it out, balance all of that out. So, what does that look like for you? If you're going through EMDR, do you need to go weight train after or run or something that is actively moving through the physical body as well? Because you just did emotional stuff, so now you need to do a physical active thing to purge as well. Then do that. Maybe you also need stuff that also brings you that calming, peaceful mindset that isn't so active, but it still involves body movement. So that could look like yoga. Maybe that is a walking meditation. What does that look like for you? And really try to go in that direction. It's going to be different for different people, and you might realize also that your needs change day to day, hour to hour, minute by minute. Like it could just, it's such an ebb and flow sometimes that you really can't predict it. And that's one of the reasons why, if you have regular life stuff that you have to deal with, where you work a regular 9 to 5 type job, if you're working full time at a regular job, that does make it a lot harder to do any kind of spiritual healing type modalities. It makes it so much harder because that takes up most of your waking hours. And even if you don't hate what you do, it's adding on so much to your time. It can add stress, it can add a lot, which is why even Buddhist monks have said it's harder for people that are out in the regular kind of society to maintain that spiritual level of not even just enlightenment, but that feel good and being able to meditate and being able to do the practices that feel good and the spiritual practices and maybe rituals that you really love. It's harder because when you're on a mountain and it's just that's the practice is to meditate and to do very specific ritualized things. You don't have the outside distractions. And even the people that are lucky enough to gain success online, where that's part of their practice, they don't have to do a full-time regular job anymore. It's where they can create their own schedule and fit their practices in every single day. It's a daily devotional to themselves and to their goals. It is easier to do it if you don't have a normal type of job that will pull you away from that. It's also easier if you don't have small kids. Let's also recognize that. It is so much harder if you have kids, but especially like little kids, because they're going to need more out of you. And they have a lot of energy and they're kind of energy vampires as well. And so it's going to take a lot, and you can't predict that. More often than not, you can't predict that. So even if you tried to say, I'm going to get up earlier, because that feels right for me to get up earlier and have my meditative time and journal and have my tea, coffee, whatever in a quiet space and really try to set my intentions for the day and do a yoga practice or whatever it is to just start the day off peaceful. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be a child's radar going off and like, oh, Oh, hey, heard you trying to chill out. Let me create chaos. That happens a lot. It happens a lot. It's very normal. And that's not addressed enough either. There's so many like spiritual people that are very popular that don't have kids and they never address that because they don't seem to get it. And or they don't talk if they do have kids, they don't talk about that part. And then there's people that have kids and they're like, "Hi, yeah, I can't do that. I'm lucky if I've showered today by myself because it looks different for people." And that's something that maybe they don't have the same amount of support either. That also needs to be recognized. And not every kid is going to be the same either. Some kids are very chill. Other kids, like Donnie from uh the Wild Thornberries, like all over the place. Chaos, pure chaos and destruction. And that's okay. They are who they are. But it is going to make it more difficult to have your own time and your own thing. So that's something else that needs to be addressed and honored and recognized is trying to meet yourself where you're at with your own life. And it is a lot more difficult depending on where you're at and depending on your situation. Something else that is going to make it more difficult, obviously, is money. Unfortunately, that is a huge factor in life. If you have wealth, you have a lot less to worry about. You don't have to worry about being homeless. You don't have to worry about paying for your groceries. You don't have to worry about being able to pay your bills. If you need a vacation, you can take one. If you need a self-care day and go get a massage, you can afford to do that. It's different, and that needs to be recognized as well. The more in poverty you are, the more difficult it can be to be able to have that time of self-care and practices that help you on your spiritual journey, your healing journey, all the things. It can make it so much more difficult. And it doesn't seem like those things are getting addressed enough because we see this, it's it's almost, and I'm not saying that everybody's doing it, but sometimes it comes across as very performative. And that's so misleading for so many people. It could be very realistic for them, but when they're not ever addressing the nuances of other lifestyles and the very real shit that comes along with life, that's kind of doing a disservice for a lot of people, especially the people that are newer to it and they feel like they're failing because they're not able to do that. They're not able to keep up on that kind of level. They're not able to go on the retreats because they can't afford it. They're not able to have a specific devoted hour-long wake up session of starting off the day beautifully because they are already sleep deprived, so they can't carve out even more time to take away from potential sleep. Or maybe they have health problems. Maybe they've got family obligations, even if it doesn't feel like an obligation. It's just, things that absolutely have to get done. Maybe, there's just so many different factors that it can come into play. So just recognize that wherever you're at with your journey, it's okay. Just try to find ways that can be beneficial for you, that can work for you. And don't worry so much about what other people are doing. If that doesn't fit for you, it doesn't fit for you. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay if your journey looks different from somebody else's, especially somebody who that's their job. If my only job was my business endeavors, I would fucking love that so much. I am not there yet. I still have to have a full-time job. The cost of living is atrocious. I have to offset that by having a full-time job, and I'm still struggling. I have still had that moment of, am I about to be homeless because the cost of living is so bad, even though I have a job, even though I'm building a business, and there's a housing crisis everywhere. So this is real shit. And I'm not in freaking La La Land where I'm super rich and totally disconnected from that fact. I recognize how hard life gets, and I recognize that there are variables that are going to make some people's experiences and journey into all this stuff way more difficult than others. And if I do get to a point where I did get wealth and was able to finally quit working in a full-time job, I would fucking love that. And I have a lot of chronic health conditions. My health is shit. Yeah, I know you're not supposed to say that, speaking it into existence, me, 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 me. Sometimes you just have to voice the truth, even if you don't want that as your reality. And that's something else that is really annoying about this whole performative thing with the whole spiritually, new agey, whatever, sometimes it comes across like the influencers do, where it's performative. And what we need is the authenticity, where you can say, right now, I am experiencing a really shitty reality, and I'm doing everything I can to push through and get out of it and to heal and to get back into self-care and to get back into my spiritual practices. That does not mean that at every second of every day you have to gaslight yourself and live in Delulu land and be that perfect toxic positivity situation. You have to be able to recognize when things are bad and move through it. If you're not working through it, you're not going to be able to regurgitate it out of your system and heal from it. It is not it is not a good thing to only be positive all the time. You don't want to get stuck in the negativity. You don't want to overdo the negativity. And that's something that I've battled with myself is learning to recognize when I'm being too negative, when I'm being too hard on myself, especially being overly self-critical, being nasty to myself, saying mean things to myself, and trying to turn it around. And that's something else that is a very real thing that can happen is learning how to recognize those things within yourself and calling yourself out on it. Maybe you need a trusted friend to help you call it out as well. Like if you hear me talking shit about myself, say something so I can take that moment to recognize it and turn it around or to at least speak through it and like, why do I feel this way right now? And that's okay too. And you need somebody that is not just going to blow smoke up your ass. You need somebody that's going to be real with you about it and not mean. Like it can, obviously it should not be somebody that is going to twist your words or use it against you later on. That would not be good either. So if it has to be your therapist because they've been really great with you, your coach, your bestie, whatever, find somebody that can help you if you need help calling it out? Or is that extra support like, hey, I'm trying to be nicer to myself or less negative in general. So if you catch me and I don't catch myself, call it out. And that could be good. Sometimes we need people to call us out on our shit. Doesn't mean that you're getting bullied. That bullying is never okay. Being just straight up hateful is not okay unless they deserve it, like they are a pedo. No sympathy from me. So there are a few exceptions, but Generally speaking, being hateful, what good is that going to do? Be bullying somebody, what good is that going to do? No, that's not good. And you don't know someone's mental state. So we don't need to bombard people with a bunch of negativity when that could be the last straw for them. I don't like that at all. I don't like that. People need to stop doing that. But at the same time, calling people out on their shit can be a good thing. And it can be done in a way that is respectful and done in a way that is through love and compassion. And that's important. And that's why you need a therapist or a coach or a spiritual mentor who will call you out when you need it. If all they are doing is cupcakes and rainbows all the time, that is not realistic. That is not realistic, especially if you're trying to heal, because what you have been through could have been so traumatic and so detrimental to parts of you that it's like a part of your soul died with it. A part of you died with it. That doesn't need sunshine and rainbows. That doesn't need cupcakes and pizza. That needs facing it head on. Let's dig in there and fix this. It's like sometimes it takes surgical precision to dig through and get to the core of it. And sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's messy. But if all you have is yes men around you that are only going to ever be positive about everything, how are you really fully going to heal and face everything you need to face? So if your therapist or your coach or your spiritual mentor or your best friend or your partner is only ever yes manning you, then have those conversations as to why. Are you afraid to not tell me the truth? If I'm, especially if you're requesting them to help you with something that you're trying to help yourself through, like I'm trying to be nicer to myself. I need you to help me if I'm saying something really negative about myself and I don't catch it. I need you to help me out. And then you realize that they haven't been doing that. Maybe they're not intentionally doing it. Maybe they don't always catch it. And that's different. But if they're just it's not helpful for somebody to kiss your ass all the time. It's not helpful to be positive all the time. Sometimes you have to be able to say, this is not healthy. Even if it's stop saying that about yourself. You are a good person. You didn't deserve what happened to you. Don't believe what they told you when you know damn well that wasn't even true. Whatever it looks like, it needs to be recognized and you need to move through it. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it feels great to be like, oh, okay, I'm finally recognizing this and now I can change it. Good, good. Or, damn, I just caught myself absolutely annihilating the way my ass looks today. Good, I caught it. You know what? It's not so bad. And I'm working on it. I'm going to the gym, I'm doing what I can. I'm and working on my health is more important. I'm fine. Sometimes you have to be able to do stuff like that. Um, but yeah, again, it's all a personal thing. And some people, they do need a gentler approach. Some people need a harsher approach. It's very personal. And that is part of why it can be difficult to find the right coach, the right therapist, the right spiritual mentor, somebody that's a good fit for you because They need to be able to work with you where you're at, but in a way that's going to be effective. I have seen people that they try to take that approach of working with you where you're at, but they're totally bypassing the shit that you need to face and deal with. That's not good. So that's something to also recognize. Ugh. Anyway, and going back to finding a trusted person, even if somebody has good reviews, you still need to be careful and not just automatically completely trust them because sometimes that doesn't go well. If there are plant medicines involved, any kind of substance, be extra cautious and maybe have somebody go with you who can help protect you if you need it, or at least be there to intervene in some kind of way that is not doing the substance. Somebody totally sober-minded. That because if you are going in to a place where you don't know who they are, you are going to be, your mind is going to be altered. Things can and have happened to people that are horrific. So be careful. Be careful. And it is okay to proceed with caution. If you said, I want to do this plant medicine journey with this person, they have a good reputation, but I'm scared. And you tell that whoever's facilitating, can I bring somebody with me who's not going to do any of the medicines with me, but just to be there for my comfort and my safety? I would feel safer to have them with me. And that facilitator is totally against it. That for me would raise some red flags. I'd be like, why would you not be okay with that? Why would you not like want to help somebody feel safer, especially in such a vulnerable time? There have been too many cases where women in particular have gone to a male facilitator that once they were in that altered state of consciousness, assaulted them. And there's been times where that has happened, and they have said that it was, they tried to make it into a God-like experience. And I did that because of God telling me to, or whatever. Like, you're a fucking predator. Shut up. Anyway, so have discernment with that. That is probably less common now, thankfully, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. There are going to be predators in every single industry, every single industry. So be careful. And there's going to be grifters as well. So let's address that real quick. I'm covering a lot, but grifters are some people to be careful with. And part of looking out for that could be if they are suddenly selling some courses and workshops when it's like, where the hell did you come from? And they just got lucky and gained a following overnight, and they're brand new and they're brand spanking new. They are a fetus in whatever that industry is, and yet they're selling courses all of a sudden. Okay, you're in it for the money. Got it. Or people that are telling you things that they know would be okay. So one example that I have seen is on TikTok. There has been some grifters who realize that women want to hear certain things about men, especially from men that are supportive of shit that we go through. And they don't believe it, but they sure as shit will say it. So they get that attention and then end up gaining money from women. And unfortunately, women will also start flocking to them and like sleeping with them and all the things. It's like, what are you doing? You poor baby. But at the same time, the fuck are you doing? It's scary. It's scary, but it happens. So, how do you recognize the people that are legitimate and the people that are performative? That might not be an easy thing. So, really, it's sometimes you need to, if it's something like that, if it's a grifter, then they're probably going to have a pattern of that, like switching things over as it's popular. People love to follow trends like influencers do, and I'm not anti-influencer. I'm just, a lot of it is very performative and inauthentic, and that's very annoying. But anyway, if you're going to go to a therapist, a coach, a spiritual mentor, whatever it may be, do they really feel aligned with you? Do they seem authentic? Do they seem like they are going to be real with you? And what are their credentials? Maybe some people just have a natural gift, like mediumship, for example. A lot of people fake it, yes, but there are a lot of people who legitimately have that gift. That is not something that you can really have credentials on. You just have it. And the more you do it, the better at it that you can get. And the more comfortable in doing it you will get. Speaking of someone that has some mediumship style capabilities, and I don't lean into it. I've thought about it a lot over the years on really offering it and developing it and all the things, but I definitely have that imposter syndrome where I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that because what if I fucked it up? What if I didn't connect with the person that they were desperate to connect with? Well, there's so many what ifs, and that's scary. And when it's someone's grief involved, I have so much compassion for that I don't want to do anything that's going to make it worse. So that's what stops me. But there are so many people that are just like, yep, I'm a medium. I'm gonna help people out. And they dive right in. And that's not a bad thing. So, yes, it does kind of depend on certain situations. But again, just kind of have discernment and don't put people on a pedestal. Don't put people on a pedestal because they can let you down. And in turn, let yourself down. And sometimes it's a dangerous situation. But regardless, a lot of us are just doing the best that we can, and we're learning along the way. And there's a lot to be cautious about in this world as well. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. And like I said, a lot of things are not talked about enough, which is why I've made this long ass video that's covered some array of things that are not discussed enough, I don't think. And I could probably do more episodes on this, maybe even get more specific with something, but I think as a wrap up, because it's time, it's time. I just want to, I guess, in conclusion, say to not give up on your own journey, whatever that looks like for you. Be able to pivot as your life changes, as you change. Try to be more gentle with yourself as you're going through all of this. Try not to compare what your journey looks like to someone else's, what your lifestyle looks to someone else's. And if you're looking at people online or in books or in any type of media or whatever, or you're going to retreats and it seems like they're at this super high level, or whatever it may be, a comparison component comes in on this, then just recognize that you're not seeing all of it. You don't know what they're really feeling. You don't know what their life is like. Maybe they're not presenting all of it because they want privacy. Maybe it's not even about them trying to be performative and fake. Maybe they just really guard their privacy. Maybe they're not ready to talk about stuff. Maybe they're not ready to be that level of vulnerable publicly because that's a very real thing as well. And that's something that I experience. I very much value my privacy. And so that could be the case for some people as well. And recognizing that even if it's your best friend in the world, if they have a really amazing experience with one practice, it might be different for you. And that's okay. That's okay. And going through different healing modalities can be great because then you can see things that really align with you. And maybe you get something out of it that you never expected. Maybe you think, I absolutely don't believe in Reiki. I hate it. What the hell? And then you try it and you love it. That can happen too. So be open-minded with things, but also have discernment. Be so careful about what you're about to do and who you're about to do it with. That's important too. Don't people don't put people on a pedestal and prepare for contraction after expansion. Prepare for your real life stuff and how you're going to integrate your self-care and your self-work along with your regular life stuff and what that looks like for you personally. And not allowing too much bypassing, spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity, performative shit, yes men type stuff, all that, not allowing too much of that because that's not going to be beneficial either. You're not going to grow as much if you're going for help and that's all you're receiving. But you also don't want, while I say that, I do also mean like that don't go to somebody that's like abusive and bullying. That's not good either. That's not the same thing. That's definitely not the same thing. So there's that. And your experience in life can be very different from someone else's. You might have a hell of a lot to heal from, and maybe somebody else doesn't have as much. So it seems quick and easy for them. Where are you at with your own journey? That's that's what you need to focus on more is yourself in it. Like, what do you need to work on? What's your shadow? And how do you move through it? Lean into it, fix it, all the things, right? Yes. So, anyway, hopefully this was helpful and not too boring or all over the place or redundant. But I don't like to do things scripted. So it just kind of comes out how it comes out. And yeah, I really encourage you to do the self-care, to do things that are healing and feel good and help you work through things that need to be worked through. It is part of the life is to have difficult experiences as well as good experiences. Sometimes the bad really outweighs the good, and it makes it harder to bring the good in. It can be more of an effort. I encourage you to seek the effort and to do things in healthy ways and have discernment as much as you can, but also forgive yourself as you need to. So, drink some water, take care of yourself and others. But of course, you have to take care of yourself as much as you can along the way or first, depending on your situation. But yeah, hopefully, I'll see you next time. If you want any of the links to my website, whatever, it's in the description, the show notes, whatever it's called. I can't think of it right now. Show notes works fine. And on my website, you can find whatever I'm doing currently. I might have it on there, except for I don't have a lot of in-person stuff listed on there. Um, if I were to ever facilitate like a big kind of retreat, I'd put that on my website. That would be different. But I think I'm also going to start putting up some meditation videos on YouTube, maybe also Spotify. I haven't decided yet. That way it's kind of like a free resource from me. I know there's a bajillion out there from other people. I, on my website, have a lot of shit listed, so you can check it out. And I have workshops, which I need to create more of. I know I need to create more of. I also need to work on more books. Well, not more books, like finish them and then work on more. And I have coaching that's totally online, private, all the things, more information on the website. And in my about section, I've got credentials, things like that listed there if you wanted to check it out. But anyway, take care of yourself, drink some water, have some time in nature, and let's just be kinder, more respectful, nicer people. Bye.